is just fantastic.
Captain's Log, Subdates 21027.2. We've made a new recreation room for the inmates within the Halls of Injustice's ISO cubes, using a tin of polish, some wood filler, and a ball of elastic bands. We have dubbed it the Sticky Punishment Tunnel. Welcome everyone to the Halls of Injustice. Today we have inmates number 048, a 47-year-old man from Woking, Surrey, now residing within the M block of the ISO cubes. His name is Philip Tarver, a unemployed scrounging bum who lived at home with his parents for all of his life. It sounds like, by the way, I'm being a bit harsh on him, doesn't it? No, I'm not. I'm being quite kind, actually. You see, he hasn't worked since 2017, and the night before the crime he committed, he got his dad, his 84-year-old father, to give him money to go buy vodka and beer so he can get utterly wrecked up in his room. See, Philip Tarver, at the age of 47, lived with his mother and father, aged 86 and 84, Angela and Colin Tarver, his entire life. Had no children, no relationships, had a sister and a brother. Sadly, the sister passed away. The brother is in fact the one that called him a scrounger, and in a almost cliché sense, because he lived at home with his mum and dad, he was known for using things like cocaine and cannabis. So he was a wreckhead. Oh, he was also a transvestite. Not an important factor, but it does make things seem a little more glamorous until we get to the crime in question. Prior to the crime he committed that has put him in the ISO cubes, Philip Tarver also had 6 previous convictions for criminal damage and public order matters. This particular perp is a lifer, it seems. Philip Tarver had dreamt of becoming a successful songwriter and did upload some of his content to social media platforms, but sadly had no success. On the 19th of December 2019, yes, we're going to skip to the incident that's put him in the cubes, Philip Tarver came downstairs, dressed in a woman's nightdress, and began to spring clean. He continued by pulling wires out of the television from the wall, which had annoyed his father because they had planned to watch Bargain Hunt. His father, Colin Tarver, shouted at him, which led to Philip Tarver storming off into the kitchen, where his mother was having a cup of tea. After Colin Tarver was successful in plugging the television back in, he heard a scream from the kitchen where his wife had been. He then ran into the room and found his wife lying on her back. Moments later, brandishing a blood-stained ornamental sword, shouted, "I'm going to kill you." He and his father then struggled. The father was successful in removing the sword from him, but did run from the house so as to call the police. And just to go back on what Philip Tarver did, he ran the sword through his mother's heart. When Philip Tarver was alone with his mother's dead body, he then decided to cut off her head and remove one of her fingers. And the next part of his genius plan was to hide them in super secret places where no one could ever find them. So he placed her finger in the kettle and boiled it, and then placed his mother's head in an Angry Birds box and put that next to the turkey Twizzlers in the freezer. Not long after, the police turned up, and Philip Tarver, realizing there was no way out, he left the property in his negligee, armed with a Union Jack flag, and confessed to the police officers loud and proud, "I surrender. I am sorry for killing her. Fucking hell. I must repent for my sins." With all of this as one big picture, it seems like an almost open and shut case, doesn't it? But Philip Tarver wasn't done. He may have been a bum, a dosser, a scrounger, a lout who took everything from his family, sat up all night, played video games, did recreational drugs and drank himself into a coma, and also had no friends, obviously, while dressed, no doubt, in one of his very alluring outfits. But Philip Tarver decided, after being mentally assessed by a psychiatrist who determined he was mentally fit, to say his father committed the act. Let's just ignore the injuries his father sustained while tussling with you, the fact that you confessed to it outside of the property. It was in fact an 84-year-old man that ran a sword through an 86-year-old woman, decapitated her, and removed one of her fingers placing one in a kettle and the other in a box in a freezer. Understandably, after a very short trial, coronavirus no doubt kept this one back a while. It is in fact why it took so long for it to come to light. Philip Tarver was found guilty of murder. Judge Anne Mollimod, when sentencing, said, "He has spoken of the additional suffering," Philip's father that is, "this has caused him, saying in the course of the trial every aspect of his life and home has been laid bare for all to see. What has been shown is a man of great courage and dignity. You left school at the age of 16, you went on to college. You had various jobs being a delivery driver. You have not worked since 2017. You were never married. You lived with your parents nearly all your life. Your mother bought you a car. Your father paid the running costs. You watched TV, played computer games and drank alcohol. You did not go to bed until 5 a.m. and sometimes not until 8 a.m. when your father was getting up. Your mother was particularly vulnerable. She was frail, elderly, had limited speech and limited mobility. You dismembered her body." Colin Tarver also spoke and said she was a devoted wife and grandmother. Despite having a stroke in June 1991, she was determined to carry on a normal of a life as possible. Over the years, she became more and more disabled, but carried on despite this. "I have lost my best friend and the love of my life. She was the light of my life, and now the light has gone out, cruelly extinguished." So as I earlier stated, Philip Tarver was in fact found guilty, and there is a sentence. Yes, you can now go to your cell. Yes, turn that force field on. You can now have a look for all the years you're now going to be in that cell at your mother. Have fun with that. Those screens don't break, by the way. Philip Tarver was sentenced to life by Judge Anne Molyneux, with him having to serve a minimum of 19 years. So there's no half sentence here. He will be at least 66 years old before he is considered eligible for parole. My view, by the way, and this is a very popular one, unless you're into the whole death penalty, we don't do those here sadly, my view is life, without the possibility of parole, and you will exist solely on Nutriloaves, and your cell will be very, very small, so a bit smaller than the one you're currently in. We're feeling a little generous at the moment. Don't worry, we're going to put some plexiglass up so you don't infect your cellmate with Corona-chan or a computer virus. I know many people watch this and think that we at the IsoCubes are inhumane because we just collect people, like Ash Ketchum does Pokemon and a sperm bank does, well, sperm. But that's not the case. We just like to know where you all are. And if you're all in the IsoCubes, then we definitely know where you are. We are Big Brother, yo, and you're all fucked. As we're done here, I'd love to know what you think about Philip Tarver. What do you think of the sentence? Do you think it is right? Please do let me know in the comments down below. As a final thing, I'm going to be streaming on Twitch tonight. Link in the description. Have a fantastic day, and thank you all for listening.